I always remember. Let me try that. Right. Can you still hear me? Okay.
I can hear you lovely. Yeah. What I'm just doing is I'm just going to connect this to Facebook. We've started recording. As soon as we connect this to Facebook, we will get going, and I'll do the introductions. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this fantastic webinar tonight with the DVSA. Changes are afoot, and they're coming very soon. We all know that the part 3 is hopefully around the corner very soon. We're not answering that tonight. The things that we are talking about tonight are changes with the L test. I'll make my introductions very, very soon. I'll bring both John Sheridan in and Martin. Now, before I get to that point, these webinars are brought to you by the Driving Instructors Business Summit. We've got a fantastic summit taking place in January the 28th. It's only 17 quid to get in. This is not a boring day. This is a fun day. Look, I drink wine, I drink whiskey, and I do it on webinars. Look, it will be fun, I promise you. So check out the website later. Check out my personal profile where the details are on there. And I want to see you. And we want a really huge crowd because all the money goes to a wonderful charity called Speed of Sight. So all ticket sales, all trade stands, all the money goes directly to Speed of Sight. The costs have been taken care of for this webinar and all our other costs as well by Tina Jansen-Cadell and Kelly Holloway at AD Indy. So thank you very much for AD Indy for doing that. If you're not aware of AD Indy, adindi.co.uk. So okay, that gets rid of the plugs. Let's start to get into this. I'll explain how the format's going to work tonight. Please, if you want to ask a question, the best place to put that question is in the webinar chat box, not the Q&A box. If we can get to the Q&A box, we will. Please put it in the chat box. There's a good reason for that. It's because I'm the host. If my internet dies, your webinar will still continue, but Martin and John won't be able to see the questions in the Q&A. So please put the questions in the chat box. If you're watching on Facebook and you've got questions, please chuck the questions in on Facebook. Please like, please share, please comment, and we'll try to get to them as soon as we can, but priority does go to the people that have registered on here. So, right, okay, a little bit of housekeeping. You know where your toilet is. If the fire alarm goes off, it's your fault. It's not mine. I don't have one. I ought to. Actually, I have, but just part of the script, isn't it? So I'll introduce you first of all to Martin Leather, good friend of mine. Martin runs DSD. So Martin, please tell me a little bit about yourself, then I'll let you introduce John Sheridan and you two can get on with the show.
Okay, as a lot of you will know from my Facebook live post, my name's Martin Leather. I am driving school development and also QBG driving school. What we're here tonight for is to try and pick John Sheridan's brains so that we can all carry out our training with absolute clarity in preparation for the revised driving test that's going to come in on December the 4th. So I've got a lot of questions here, and I'd like to now get John to introduce himself so that we can kick off with all these questions. John, over to you.
Okay, good evening everyone. Big thank you for sacrificing your time. There obviously must be, well, there's probably nothing on television tonight, am I right in saying that? But listen, you're welcome, and I'm really pleased that you've phoned in or dialed in or logged in, whatever the correct technical term is, because tonight, ladies and gentlemen, it is your night. For those of you who don't know me, I'm John Sheridan. I'm the Driver Training Policy Manager for DVSA. I always hesitate saying this next sentence, but I've been with DVSA now for 33 years, and I know immediately what you're all thinking. You're all thinking that cannot possibly be the case because he looks far too young. And you're absolutely right, but it is true. And I've loved every minute of it. An exciting time for me personally. It's unprecedented in-house with regard to the fact that we're introducing 3 new tests And in my experience, we've never done anything like this before in such a short space of time. So if ADIs are a little bit apprehensive about change, rest assured, we in-house are also heavily working behind the scenes to ensure that the well-oiled machine delivers the goods. So I look forward to receiving your questions and hopefully dispelling a few myths and allaying some fears this evening, because that's what it's all about.
Okay, brilliant. Thanks, John. Before I ask you the first question, I just want to let everyone know, I've been an ADI since 1991, and even back then, it was a little bit of them and us as regards to then DSA and ADIs. And I just want everybody that's watching tonight to be aware that not are you only the driver training policy manager for the DVSA, you are a fully qualified ADI. All right, so it's not them and us. We're all on the same side, guys, and John can see things from our point of view as well, because he is still a card, or I should say, badge carrying ADI. That's correct, isn't it, John?
Absolutely. I mean, just to add a little bit more to that, if I may, Martin, it's not just the ADI badge that I hold. I'm also qualified, obviously, for fleet, and I'm also qualified for audit, because it's only right and proper that if you're sitting in judgment of somebody else's ability to deliver either a fleet training session or an audit training session, that you yourself have also got the badge of honour, so to speak. You've got to be able to walk the walk as well as talk the talk. And how I managed to acquire those qualifications was being an ADI examiner trainer at Cardington for nearly 13 years. So yeah, I've been through the mill as well, so absolutely.
Brilliant. Okay, well, I'm going to have to rely on your knowledge and the knowledge of the attendees tonight when it comes to the part 2 and 3, because I'm not audit registered. I'm not an ADI trainer, although I did train my wife to become an ADI. So you're going to have to be, and the marriage survived it. I'm still married. Can you believe it? Right. Is it okay with you two guys if we kick off with the questions? David?
Yeah, please, you fire ahead. I'm just writing some questions down that are coming in, so I've just got them to hand, so I'll keep quiet at my end. If people do have a question, put it in the chat box. What we find as well is that John talks a lot, so Martin's going to try and keep him in line. But what Martin might do as well, Martin feels it's pertinent, he might ask a follow-up question to the subject that's currently being spoken about. So those follow-up questions might be in the chat boxes already. We don't know, and we realise that if you write a question at, let's say, 9:30, and the subject changes, we don't get to it till 10 o'clock, it disrupts the flow a little bit, but not to worry, because if we haven't answered it, we'll do our best is to get back to it, relive the subject and just go over it. So please don't let that stop you from asking questions. And so far we've got 39 questions in, so we've got quite a lot. So yeah, please, Martin, crack on. John, make it as succinct as you possibly can.
That's the politest trap shot, John, I've ever heard in my life. Anyhow, okay, John, a lot of the questions that have been sent through to me have obviously been duplicated because there are only a finite amount of changes that are happening on the L test. So lots of different technicalities that I'll go over with you. So apologies if things do get repeated a little bit. And I'm going to give a name check to the people that have sent the questions through. I've got one from Dave Galloway. Hi, Dave. It says he has heard that the Bay Park will be carried out with 3 clear spaces either side. Is that correct?
No.
Brilliant. That's succinct enough.
Thank you, Nick.
Yeah.
Are you impressed?
Well on.
Right. Okay. Now this is an interesting one. This has been sent through from an anonymous source. It says, it has been said that the DVSA has sought permission from landowners, but as yet they've either had no response or had an or had an absolute no. Is that correct?
No.
Wonderful. So am I right in saying then that I know that B&Q had, not B&Q, sorry, Halfords and B&Q initially said, no, I know the NSA got involved and they're happy for us to go in there now. So are there any, the easy and quickest way to answer this, are there any car parks that will be off limits for tests?
No.
Wonderful. Okay.
Good, John.
This is going well. This is. I'm impressed.
Okay. Now, this is a question regarding the independent driving with the Sat-nav. This is quite a good one because I didn't think of this myself. If during the independent driving section, a candidate goes the wrong way safely without committing a driver fault, will the Sat-nav just say recalculating route like it would do if you were driving normally? Or will the driving examiner take over verbally at that point?
Both.
Okay, that's great. So,
do you want me to give you a bit more, Martin?
No,
let me be fair, because it's really important that people who've dialed in appreciate. First and foremost, the Sat-nav element is not a test of memory. It is a test of being able to follow directions, obviously from the Sat-nav. For example, if the Sat-nav says that the roundabout we're turning right and the candidate remains in the left-hand lane, obviously it would not be in the examiner's interest to allow the candidate to go off route because it's just going to add more time to the test and add additional stress for the examiner because he or she has got to be back in time for the next test. So the examiner has got to control the situation. That is of paramount importance. However, if in the unlikely event that a candidate takes a wrong turn correctly and there's no fault committed, say for example they just take the third exit instead of the fourth exit, but everything's fine and they've done it safely and appropriately, then the examiner's got two choices: either to direct them back onto route or to allow the Sat-nav to recalculate and get them back en route. So there's two choices. So you are right in both instances, but essentially it is down to the examiner controlling the test. Really important.
Brilliant. While we're on the subject of Sat-navs, there's been another question coming, and it says the TomTom 52 was initially chosen, but apparently it's having problems and the DVSA have returned them and maybe using Garmin instead. Is that correct, John?
No.
Brilliant, thank you. Moving on quickly. I love these closed questions. They're great. You can get through so much.
Yeah, well, there's a lot to get through.
Where did these rumours come from? That's what I'd like to know.
The questions, John?
No, where did the rumours come from, Martin? We bought 2,700 Sat-navs.
I have no idea where that came from. That was an anonymous question that just came through on my page.
Yeah, somebody called it M. McGee, Nottingham.
It's weird. I've got a few questions from him as well. Okay, moving on. Touching briefly on the Part 3. Will the new Part 3 be available at all test centres or just the larger ones? And that question's come through from Dave Williams.
Eventually, Dave, it will be available at every test centre where we currently conduct standards checks. And I say eventually because it will take some time to get the booking systems in place, get the examiners geographically placed to be able to provide the service. But that certainly is the aspiration, to improve the service provision, because the lesson planning is one of the key competencies within the new Part 3. And if you're not familiar with the area, then that is not a good start, really. So we as an agency have got to improve that service, and that's what we intend to do.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you. Question from Anthony Georgiou. Good evening, Anthony. Now, this has got a few different parts to it. When a candidate is asked to pull up on the right, will that be done on the move, or will the pupil be asked, after we turn into the next road, I would like you to pull up on the right, we're safe to do so? Or can you just clarify exactly how the instruction will be given, please, John?
Yeah, it'll be done on the move, Martin. It'll be done when the examiner's selected an appropriate road in which to execute the manoeuvre. And when I say appropriate road, we're talking about not a very busy road, because again, that is not in the examiner's interest to do that, because he or she's up against it with time. So it'll be a road with traffic, but not exceptionally busy, even though we're moving away from housing estates. So it will be done on the move. So the examiner will be looking in the far distance as opposed to the near or the middle to plan that manoeuvre. And bearing in mind, it will only be done in one in every 4 tests anyway.
Right. Okay, thank you for that. On that subject, I'm going to miss a few questions out because I don't want to be jumping from one subject to another. I had a question come through. It said, when parking on the right, is it acceptable to be a drain's width away from the curb, because we're then going to have to get them to reverse 2 car lengths, the same sort of distance that they would position themselves for the current left reverse? Over to you, John.
Okay. Well, let's. I'm just going to be pedantic, if I may, Martin.
Yeah.
There's a big difference between parking and pulling up on the left. So if you're intending to park your car, you want to be as close to the curb as possible. This is about and pulling up on the left. So if you're intending to park your car, you want to be as close to the curb as possible. We've got a technical problem.
Yes, sorry,
Okay.
That was me. Sorry.
It's okay, David. Yeah. So if you're intending to park on the right, you want to be as close to the curb as is possible. But this is a pulling up exercise, not a parking exercise. So ideally, you want to be reasonably close to the curb without damaging tyres, wheels, etc. And in a suitable position whereby, and the examiner will manage this anyway, Martin, in a suitable position whereby you've got good visibility to the front and not obstructed to the rear either, because that's also key.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you for that. Just to elaborate on that a little bit further,
Sure.
Christine Carney sent this one through. After pulling up on the right, can candidates reverse back more than 2 car lengths if they need to do so for adequate visibility to pull away again?
Yes.
Wonderful. Because obviously with the parallel parking, if they go back more than 2 car lengths, that could constitute a fail. But on this one, they can reverse back as far as they need to, as long as it's a minimum of 2 car lengths. Am I right, John?
No. If I'm being polite and correcting you slightly, Martin, on the reverse park, it's no different. I'm going to go back to examiner control. We're looking for accuracy, coordination of controls with effective observations. So if the candidate does reverse back over 2 car lengths, you know, they may be waiting for the examiner to say thank you, drive on when you're ready, please. So it is about the examiner control. You wouldn't fail for reversing back too far.
Okay, good to know. Thank you. Open my eyes for something there. Okay, moving on. Helen Rips has come up with a question that you may or may not know the answer to, but I'll ask it anyway. What health and safety considerations do driving examiners have to consider and use for pulling up on the right?
It's a good question. I'm going to answer it in a similar way to any other manoeuvre. The same health and safety considerations they would use if they were doing a turn in the road, bearing in mind they're actually steering across the whole width of the road with traffic potentially queuing up on both sides. So the health and safety is of paramount importance. Again, it's back to examiner control. So no difference at all, Martin.
Okay, thanks for that. If I'm just spitballing here. If I had a candidate on test and they got the instruction, when safe to do so, pull over on the right-hand side of the road. So they've done everything correctly. They've checked their mirrors. They've signalled. There's a car a long way in the distance coming towards them, and they pull over, and that car has to change their speed. Is that the same criteria that it is now, that we mustn't make another vehicle change its speed at all?
We're looking at risk, Martin. When you think back to when you qualified as an ADI, you had to do a right reverse on your Part 2. You will have made that same decision whether the gap is appropriate enough for you to move across to the right-hand side of the road safely. It's all about safety. So if there is a question mark as to whether you're going to cause another road user inconvenience, I would suggest you wait until that risk has been completely removed.
Brilliant. Thank you, John. Right. Okay, moving on. Here's a good one. Simon Jenner has said, when will the revised DL25 be available to look at with the new manoeuvres?
Okay, there's only one alteration to the DL25. The DL25 in essence will stay exactly the same as it is, apart from box 8. Box 8 will change, and that will be used specifically for pulling up on the right. We have got drafts of the new DL25. The new ADI Part 3 assessment form is currently available, and I would like to think very soon we'll have the new DL25 with a minor alteration also available on DVSA nets.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much. Now, I know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask you it anyway because I want you to elaborate on it. Is it possible to get a serious fault on the show me question? Now, I know it is, but I'd like you to just explain why.
Okay. It's possible to get a dangerous fault on a show me question, let alone a serious fault, because we're asking a pupil stroke candidate to demonstrate operating a particular control whilst on the move. So hypothetically, if they're looking down for the rear demister control, for example, and lose control of the steering, and the examiner has to take action to avoid actual danger, that would be marked as a D. So in answer to your question, yes.
Okay, lovely, thank you. Right, I was looking for a particular one and I've lost it for a second, just bear with me.
That's okay, I was just looking.
Right, this is from Tanzim Ismail. How would someone follow the Sat-nav if A, they don't understand English, and B, if they were deaf?
Okay, firstly, if they don't understand English, they look at the actual display and follow the display guidance itself, so the language shouldn't be an issue, but it's important that they do have an understanding of English, because they're also meant to respond appropriately and correctly to traffic signage. And in fact, the test is conducted in English, so they're going to have a problem anyway understanding what the examiner is asking them to do if they don't understand English. So that's really important. Where the deafness is concerned, we will be allowing the British Sign Language, sign languages accompany the test. So if we've got somebody who's profoundly deaf, there's two things that's really important. A, Martin, that they notify upon application that they've got a special need and that they are profoundly deaf. And that enables the booking system to allocate extra time for the examiner. And it doesn't mean the test is longer. It just means that it gives time for the signer to sign the direction stroke instructions from the examiner. So deafness isn't a problem. It's certainly not with the Sat-nav element, because they're following the screen as per the gentleman or lady who couldn't speak English. But the other directions, instructions will be relayed by a sign language expert, if that is what is needed.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much. Going back to the show me questions and the tell me questions, you clarified very clearly that yes, you can get not only a serious but possibly a dangerous fault on the show me question. Would it be possible to get a serious fault on the tell me question?
No.
Wonderful, thank you very much. Okay, that's great.
Well, just to expand a little, The answer is no. I'm not changing my mind. I do know my subjects, honestly. But you would get a driving fault, potentially a driving fault. But that driving fault will not be marked until the show me question has been done. Because if there is a loss of control during the show me element, the driving fault will not be marked and the serious fault will take priority.
Yeah, right, that makes sense.
If the show me question is done correctly, then the driving fault will be marked.
Okay, brilliant. Thanks for that, John. Now, again, just spewing off from the L test for a moment, John Lendrum has sent in a question. Good evening, John. There's a lot of Johns on here.
John.
Can you confirm that the Part 2 changes have been authorised and definitely will be going ahead from the 4th of December?
No.
Okay. Right.
Can you elaborate?
Yeah, I was just going to say.
Yeah, I can elaborate. You see, you know, it's a bit of a catch-22 situation. You're damned if you do, and you get shot if you don't. I try and keep it succinct, and I get dragged to the headmaster's office. Sadly, we're in a situation. No, it's okay. Sadly, we're in a situation with the Part 2. It doesn't affect the Category B test because the Category B test operates within existing regulation. But where the Part 2 test is concerned, we do need a change in regs. And that's part of the reason why the Part 3 test, which was meant to go live on the 2nd of October, has been deferred. We're still quietly optimistic, and I'm using that word lightly, that the Part 2 test may well, I'm using the word may now, may well still happen on the 4th of December, but I cannot guarantee it. The content of the Part 2 test is changing from doing all the manoeuvres to randomly selecting 2 of the existing manoeuvres, including the 2 new manoeuvres that have been included in the new Category B test. The emergency stop is going to be done 1 in every 3 tests, as it is currently done on the Category B test as well. So to enable us to do all of that, we do need a change in regulation. Now, we've done the work, we've done the training, and we are in a good place as DVSA, as an organisation, as an agency. We're ready to rock and roll. All we're waiting for, pardon the pun, is the green lights. And that will come from legislative stroke regulatory change as and when that happens. And I just can't lie to you. I don't know exactly when that's going to happen. It will happen, but I can't categorically give a date.
I've got a question here, if I may, Martin. So we will try and get a few on Facebook, because if your question gets answered on Facebook, I want you to bloody comment and share it and like it so more people can see this really good webinar tonight. John, a chap that all 4 of us know, Graham Hooper. Evening, Hooper. Graham, John's hiding now. Graham says, "Hi John, I have a PDI who was working towards the new Part 3. Their PDI license has expired and they want to renew. Will this be looked on favourably because of the no date currently for the new Part 3? I know that's kind of steering away from the L test, but you've just been talking about the Part 3.
Yeah.
I thought it was good to chuck in right now.
And it's always a pleasure to hear from Mr. Hooper. He's one of the good guys of the industry, I would suggest. And Graham, in answer to your question, yes. It's not the PDI's fault. And as I say, it's not particularly DVSA's fault. It's a situation that we unfortunately find ourselves in. So Jackie Turland, who is our ADI registrar, will certainly view an extension of that trainee licence with due consideration, providing, of course, and I know I'm preaching to the converted, providing, of course, they've still got at least 6 months to run within their 2-year qualifying period.
Graham says thank you for being so quick because he's got a conference to go to, so he's driving tonight. Everyone's going to start putting, I've got a conference to go to too.
I think he's probably got a nighttime golf game to go to.
Maybe. So why I'm on here, I like the sound of my own voice, as many people will tell you. It's hard for me to be quiet for half an hour. Rob Eaton, good evening, Rob. I'm just going to start reading this now. maybe I've said I'm just looking at this and thinking, really, do I want to be reading this? Rob says, hi for the SMT questions, hi for the show me questions on the move. When the DE asks for the front windscreen to be demisted, will it be necessary to select the demisting vents, increasing the fan speed and increasing the heating? Therefore, in some cars, turning 3 knobs.
Was that from David?
No, that's from Rob. That's from Rob Eaton.
Okay, Rob. Well, I'm not going to insult your intelligence, but you're the instructor. So, if you're demisting your own front windows, what do you do? How do you do it? And that's what you've got to teach your pupils to do. So, if it means turning the air conditioning on, if it means turning the fan up to 3, if it means turning the dial up to heat, then it could potentially be 4. It could be 4 buttons you're pressing. You might even be sliding the control from recirculate to fresh air. It's about demonstrating a level of competence, not just flicking a switch. This isn't just a tick box exercise. This is about imparting knowledge and understanding. And I'm sorry if that sounds like a lecture. This is all about raising the standards across the board.
Yeah, that question came in as well from Poole, very similar. He said, will it be a fault to look at the control of the actual, of the appliances, e.g. demisters? So I understand what you're saying, John, but out there, a lot of people are asking these questions.
No, it's good, David. I've got no problem at all, and that's why I think these webinars are so valuable, because these questions suggest to me that they're still hungry for information. But it is about. I mean, we had a guy at a conference recently, and I'm just throwing this in for good measure. He said to me, John, if you look at the speedo and it says one speed, and you look at the Sat-nav and it says another, which should we be adhering to, the Sat-nav or the speedo? And I thought, I don't believe he's asking me that question. So I just put it back in his court and said, what do you go by? Do you go by the speedo or do you go by the Sat-nav? And he said, I go by the speedo. So that's the answer to the question. And it's no different with the show me questions. So whatever you would do yourself to achieve that goal, you teach your pupils to do that.
That question's coming tonight, John. So, because the questions are not being answered out there, and we're so happy that Paul Kerr, he writes something very similar. Will examiners Sat-nav display speed limit for the road? Which is closely related to what you're talking about right now. The questions are out there.
Yeah, and the answer is yes. They will display the speed. The volume won't be on. The volume will only be on when the independent section is being carried out, but the speed limit will be there. But again, it sounds like I'm getting on my soapbox all the while, but the speed limit is not a target. It's about the pupil demonstrating that they can drive safely and appropriately for the road and traffic conditions. So that is also important. So, and I'm not suggesting for 1 minute any of the ADIs who've tuned in tonight would suggest that they drive at the speed limit just for the test. It's not about that at all. It is about ensuring safety and best practice.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
And if I can just jump in and say something, shortly after I qualified as an ADI, I was unsure of a lot of procedural things on the driving test, and I asked my local test centre manager, a guy by the name of Steve Wald, and I went up to him and I started asking him questions such as the ones that we've had tonight, and he said to me, Martin, what would you do? And he said, teach them to do what you would do. And I'm kind of thinking that this is really the answer to all the questions tonight. We should be teaching or training our clients to do exactly the same as we would do in that situation. Would I be right there, John?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. With a caveat, as long as your technical knowledge and understanding is correct, that is so important. And we mustn't forget, 82% of ADIs are really, really good at what they do. They're consummate professionals. I mean, look how many people have dialed in tonight, for example. I mean, the people who have dialed in tonight are the creme de la creme, and I always feel as though we're being patronising, telling them how they should potentially do their job. It's the ones that don't dial into these webinars that I'd really like to target and support. Target's probably the wrong word, but support. But you're right, Martin, totally agree with you.
Yeah. Well, the reason that we're all doing this, yourself, David, myself, and every single person that's registered to see this tonight, is because we want to help increase road safety.
Yeah,
and that's what all these changes are about, aren't they? They're not about to drop the pass rate or to catch ADIs out. It's all about us working together to improve driver safety and road safety. Is that right, John?
Well said. That's well said, that man. Couldn't agree more.
Right, now let me throw a curveball at you, because another instructor asked me this today, and I thought, that is such a good question. I wonder if anyone's actually thought of it. How are they going to recharge the sat-navs in time between tests? Or are they going to have a spare one on charge at the test centre so they can swap them over?
Right, there's two things here. The sat-nav will come with what they call a juice pack, which is an additional auxiliary power unit.
Right.
So not only is the sat-nav charged, but the juice pack is charged. So both pieces of hardware will be charged every evening. There won't be an issue at all with the sat-nav running out of juice during the course of a test. But worst case scenario, because we should never be that complacent to say that it would never happen, we may use the infamous cord and plug into the auxiliary power if that facility is available in the car. But we wouldn't, with a capital W, unplug any cameras that were already being used by the ADI or any auxiliary equipment they were using, because that may impinge on any insurance agreements that they've got. So in the unlikely event, that's the only time that we would even consider doing that.
Brilliant. Thanks for that. Helen Lang's just actually asked a question that you've just answered. So thanks for your question, Helen, and I hope that answers it. Going back to that juice box you were talking about, in conjunction with the normal charge on the sat-nav, does that last for an examiner's 7 tests of the day?
The juice pack, Martin, will last for longer than 7 tests a day on its own, and that's not including the battery within the sat-nav itself.
Oh wow!
That's it's a clever bit of kit. It's about the size of a cigarette packet that is velcroed onto the back of the sat-nav itself. The sat-nav itself is adhered, stuck onto the mat, and it's all very neat. And the examiner will have a little handbag, won't look very pretty, will have a little handbag, and just basically pull it out of the bag, plonk it in the appropriate place so the pupil has got sight of it. Confirmation that pupil can see the sat-nav will be made before the test begins, and off the test will run. It's as simple as that.
Okay, someone just typed something into the chat box, and I'd like to go over it with you if you don't mind. It's just, which show me questions will now be done on the move? Now, am I correct in thinking that there are going to be a potential of 7 to choose from?
Yes.
Brilliant. So if I go through them with you, you can just tell me if they're right or wrong.
Well, can I just say, Martin, they're available on, I've got a copy of them in front of me, they're available on DVSA Net.
Yep. Yes, they are. I can confirm that, because that's where I got mine from as well.
Can you give me can you just give me the URL for that?
Of course I can. Yeah, I'll send it tomorrow, Mark David.
Right.
The only question that isn't there is the additional question that may be asked on a Part 2 test, and that's to do with show me how you would operate your cruise control.
Yeah.
And that's only if cruise control is fitted to the vehicle, of course. We don't want to be asking that question if they haven't got cruise control. But that's the only question that isn't on the update that's on DVSA Net, and I will send the link to you, David, tomorrow.
Okay. By the way, I'd just like to make a small interruption. Lots of people are commenting on Facebook, and it's got some very nice comments coming in tonight. And just to say thanks for the webinar. So if anybody else likes the webinar, please say so. Tell us that you're enjoying it. If it's a bag of bones and you don't like it, please tell us it's a bag of bones, you don't like it, and tell us how to change it. But Adrian Tennant has made a comment, John, and a couple of people are dittoing it. And he said, it's about the Sat-nav, so, just kind of follows on what you just speaking about now. He says, there are times, and particularly when you are approaching a complex multi-lane junction, where it is imperative that the destination is known so that correct lane selections can be facilitated. I can see this becoming a problem if you are just following the Sat-nav without knowing the intermediate final final destination. Can you comment on that, please?
Yeah, firstly, it's not a trick test. It's got to be a fair test of somebody's ability to drive safely unaccompanied, and that's basically what is happening during the Sat-nav elements. So, for example, if you're leaving a dual carriageway on a deceleration lane that's only 75 metres in length, and you're turning right at the end of that deceleration lane, it takes a couple of moments for the Sat-nav to give you the instruction to move into the right lane. So again, going back to examiner control, the examiner would say, when exiting this dual carriageway, David, I suggest you take the right lane, please, because we will be turning right at the next roundabout. And that's only right and proper. If there is likely to be any confusion about lanes or because it's not a test of memory either, this is a test that they can follow the Sat-nav safely and respond appropriately to the road markings and the signage leading up. The examiner will also verify. But if the candidate is in any way, shape or form confused, all they've got to do is say to the examiner, are we heading towards King Standing? Is that the fourth exit? And the examiner will confirm that.
The thing is, the Sat-nav's not always right. Sometimes updates need to take place, and someone's asked the question on here tonight. Where I live, he says the speed limits on the Sat-nav are not what are the road signs. Follow the road signs. The Sat-nav really is a guide, isn't it?
Yeah, you got to.
Yeah, it is only a guide. And again, it's not a trick test. The routes themselves are going to be quality assured to ensure that fairness is applied. And if there are any ambiguous situations, then the LDTM, the local operational deployment manager, will be suggesting to the team that additional instruction is given. So, I would also say to the instructors, encourage their pupils to ask the examiner a question if they're unsure.
Yeah.
Because examiners will support. It's not an issue. It's not a problem.
Wonderful. Thank you. I'd like to say thank you, Chris Benstead. He's actually posted the link in the chat box to get the show me, tell me questions.
Nice one, Chris.
Yeah. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Chris. Saves me a job.
Yeah. I'd like to ask you a couple of questions about pulling up into a bay and then reversing out after, if I can.
Yeah, far away.
Okay. This one came from Anthony Georgiou as well. Will they be allowed to go to the left or the right if both are available, or will the examiner express a preference? And if there are spare spaces either side of where they decide to drive in, are they allowed to cut over the line to do so? Because you'd have to have a really very, very wide sweep into it to get in without either having to shunt it about a little bit or go over the line. Now
okay. Let's deal with the. Are they allowed to reverse out either to the left or the right? Sometimes some car parks are one way, so you'll only have one choice. But if you can reverse out either to the left or the right, it'll be the decision of the candidates.
Okay.
That's the first thing. The candidate also, Martin, will be responsible for selecting the bay. So the examiner will ask the candidate to select a bay of their choice and drive into it, completing between the two white lines. Once they're in the bay, the examiner will ask them to reverse out of the bay, either to the left or the right, if that's appropriate, as per the answer I've just given you. And then it will be down to the pupil to demonstrate accuracy, coordination of controls and effectiveness of observations. You ask about cutting the bay corner going into the bay. If that isn't causing any issue, then it'll be assessed accordingly. But I would also say going back to what I mentioned very early on, you know, what would you do if you were driving into that bay yourself? Would you cut the corner? Well, if you would cut that corner, then teach your pupil to do it. But the important thing is how they reverse out. Yeah. But bear in mind they are selecting the bay as well. So if you change the storyline slightly, if there's a car parked in the bay next to the one they intend to choose, and the risk is increasing because they're getting too close to that car, then that will be assessed appropriately as well. Yeah. But the examiner first and foremost will be selecting a car park or an area of the car park where there are plenty of vacant bays, because we will not be encouraging pupils to select a bay between two cars for obvious reasons.
Wonderful, that's brilliant. Thank you for that, John.
You're welcome.
While we're on the subject of car parks, somebody sent the question through. Would you ever ask a candidate to carry out this manoeuvre in a car park that just has the T bars at the very end of the bay, as opposed to solid white lines?
Well, the answer's yes, because when you finish a test at the end, when you complete a test now, you go into some test centre car parks and there's a brick wall. You're driving into the bay and stopping before the brick wall. Again, you know, it's about road safety. It's about having the skills. It's about having the judgment skills to stop before the bar. We don't want to be hitting anything, but it's all down to the candidate's ability. But the answer is yes. Now, can I just add a little bit more on the bay, because I had a question come through the other day about disabled. You mentioned somebody deaf earlier on, but this is more akin to somebody being disabled. So if somebody's got special needs, can they use a disabled bay? Well, a disabled bay tends to be at the front of a store, close to the entrance or the exit, tends to be busier, there tends to be more pedestrian activity. So the answer is no. They will be just driving into a bay as would any other candidate on test, but obviously they won't be exiting the vehicle, but they'll still be demonstrating the same competencies. Could you answer that question?
Chris Benstead, he says, thanks Chris for the follow-up. But if we can get our follow-up questions in, we will do. He says, not parking between cars, what are the obvious reasons? Either they can or they can't.
And Chris is right, they either can or they can't, but it's no different to what we do on road now. When we do the reverse parking on road, we don't get them to park between two cars. We get them to park behind one car with the facility to reverse back two car lengths for the same reasons. So we're still testing the same skills. We're still testing coordination of controls accuracy and the effectiveness of the observation, but we're sort of mitigating the potential risk of damaging an innocent party's vehicle, you could argue. But this is about the candidate demonstrating their ability to enter a bay and exit correctly and safely.
Okay, thanks for that, John. I'm going to play devil's advocate now, because I'm going to throw a follow-up question to that. Has been sent through. Colin Price, thank you for this. He's saying, are the changes to the manoeuvres a step backwards regarding control and skill? Because reading between the lines of what Colin's saying, and if I'm wrong, Colin, I do apologise. It looks like he thinks by doing the turn in the road and the left reverse around the corner, that somebody will acquire more skill and car control than doing the new two manoeuvres. So what would your opinion be on that, John?
Okay, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to stick my 2 pence in. If I was still actively practicing as an ADI, I'd still be teaching the turn in the road. I'd still be teaching the left reverse. I'd still be teaching the right reverse, purely and simply because they're excellent manoeuvres to practice coordination of controls and just getting used to that clutch control, slow car, fast steering type situations. Now, the new manoeuvres replicate those same skills, but in a different format. So when you drive into the bay, you've got to reverse out either to the left or the right. So you're still using similar skills to either the right reverse, the left reverse, or the turn in the road. So we're not binning those competencies, those skill factors completely. We're just replicating them to a new manoeuvre.
Yeah, and I've got, on a personal level, I've got to say, I've always thought it made more sense to drive forwards into a bay and reverse out, because if they're not on a driving test, once they've passed their test, where is the most likely place they're going to be parking in a bay? In a supermarket when they're doing their car park.
Yeah.
Where are they going to put their shopping if they reversed into the bay? They're not going to be able to open the boot and put it in. So this, in my opinion, makes this, what I think the DVSA is after, a more true to life example of what they're going to have to do post-test.
It's representative of modern day driving, Martin. You're absolutely right. I mean, we've had one or two criticisms, because way back in the day when I was responsible for the introduction of eco-safe driving, I used to pontificate about reversing into your driveway, so that in the morning when you start your engine you could just drive forward out of your driveway without having to manoeuvre the car with a cold engine. And this has been thrown back at me with this new manoeuvre. But having said that, on test the engine's warm. When they go shopping at the weekend, their engine's warm. So it's not the same as it is if you're leaving your vehicle overnight and cooling down. And as you rightly say, to enable you to get access to the boot is what you would do in real life. And when you're reversing out of Asda car park, a Tesco car park on a Saturday afternoon, you need to have those skills. You need to be aware of the possible hazards that are going on around you. So it's a really key skill to have. Hence the reason why supermarkets like B&Q and everybody else started to embrace us practicing, because it will, as you say, contribute positively to road safety, Martin.
Wonderful.
I'm getting along with the answers though, aren't I? That's the problem.
Yeah, no,
Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that, John. They're really good.
On the subject of the car parks, John, are there any insurance implications about candidates? One that came through, not as a question, but I saw this as a conversation, a thread on Facebook during the week. An instructor took a pupil into a car park, and it's one of these car parks that's got the ANPR.
Yeah.
And then if you go back in it within a couple of hours, so if, for example, they then went on the test and the driving examiner decided to go in it, so you've gone in there twice within the 2-hour limit, a ticket could be issued. Have you had any issues with that with any of the various car parks, or are those car parks going to be avoided completely?
No, on both accounts.
So they're not going to be avoided?
No, they're not going to be avoided, but you know, when you think about it, an examiner on test is going to go in, ask the candidate to select a bay, drive in, reverse out either to the left or the right. We're going to be in the car park for no more than a matter of minutes. Most car parks allow you to stay up to 2 hours free of charge, even with ANPR. So it's not going to be an issue. And if there are, I mean, I hope I'm saying that with a degree of confidence, because I don't want your members to be worried. But the bottom line is we've had no concerns from any of the major players or the National British Car Parking Association, because DVSA have not only consulted with the Assistant Chief Officers, Assistant Police Chief Officers Association about the legalities of pulling up on the right, we also consulted with the National Car Parking Association to ensure that what we were doing in the car parks was acceptable. We won't be using the same car parks anyway, Martin. As you know, we would encourage all ADIs to sit in on test, find out where we go and what we do and how we do it as an examining agency. But we would also request politely that if you are aware that a certain test centre always uses B&Q car park, that you don't go there. Go and explore the world, find another car park, use a travel lodge, use a Premier Inn, because they're often empty during the day. Make use of all the car parks that are available. And that's part of the reason why we took the routes offline, so that you didn't use them, basically.
And if I'd stick my 2 pence in there. personally, I think it's going to be of the utmost importance for instructors come the 4th of December to accompany all of their candidates on test, because we're only going to really learn what's going on. I mean, you're doing a great job here and you're answering a lot of very awkward questions, but we're only really going to get to see what happens if we go with them on the test. And I think we should all go with them when the 4th of December comes in, because otherwise, you know, what's more valuable? Is it having a cup of coffee down the cafe, or is it going with our candidates on the test so we can help better prepare candidates in the future? So if lots of instructors suddenly come on the test, more so than normal, will that be welcomed by the DVSA?
It'd be welcomed now, Martin.
Wonderful.
Why wait till the 4th of December? Do it now, because regardless of the outcome, you're in a better place to provide additional development if that is the case. Couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you for that.
I have a question here, if I may, from Lee Brooks. Hi, Lee. Lee was at the NJC, so he saw you there. I think he was the guy throwing tomatoes at the DVSA.
He's a good bloke, Lee. I know Lee.
He's a good chap. I know you know of him. He says, are there plans to alter B+E in line with the new test? And, you know, regard to Sat-nav and show me, tell me on the move. Good question, Lee.
No.
Short answer, Lee.
Okay.
I'm not saying it won't happen, but at the moment, no.
Thanks, John.
John, what general advice would you give to instructors who have got any concerns regarding the new test after tonight? I mean, after tonight, all these things hopefully will have been clarified and answered to their satisfaction. But what about going to the local test centre and asking any advice from the local test centre manager before the 4th of December comes?
Right, okay. Well, first and foremost, I mean, I've just written an article for one of the key stakeholders. I would suggest that if you haven't joined an ADI association, it doesn't necessarily have to be one of the major players, but I'd certainly get involved with a local ADI association, because that way you often get the opportunity. We've also had a mail shot to 9,000 of you. We've seen about this in the requirements of the new driving test. There's lots of YouTube clips available online to see the manoeuvres being executed for real by Mr. O'Brien, who was also with me at the conference a week or so ago in Dudley, in Birmingham. And there's an awful lot of information that is available, Martin. But I would suggest that if you've got any particular questions, if there's a burning issue that you just can't get an answer to, knock the test centre door, have a chat with the local driving test centre manager and ask the question. And if they don't know the answer, they will feed it up to us in Nottingham, and we will certainly find somebody who does.
I'd like to come in if I can. What am I asking permission for?
Yeah, sure, webinar.
I've got a few very quick answer questions here, John. So some of these might have been asked already as I've been writing notes down. Can the pupil choose a different language on the Sat-nav if they wanted to?
No.
Okay. How should the Sat-nav be set up?
The Sat-nav will be set up in advance. Every single test centre has got to record every single route onto every Sat-nav for every examiner before the 4th of December. The candidate has got absolutely nothing to do with the Sat-nav.
Thank you. Can the pupil refuse to use the Sat-nav?
No. John, can you hear it?
Sorry, I didn't hear a word of that.
Can the pupil refuse to use the Sat-nav? Can the pupil refuse to use it?
No.
Okay. Can you fail on the SMTM on the move?
Yes.
Thank you. is it a fault of any kind to have to pull over to do the new SMTM?
No, but let me just clarify that. So if the examiner asks the candidate to demonstrate how they demist the rear windows, and they say, oh, I'm not sure, I don't know where that control is, then the examiner will pull over, or the candidate will pull over with the examiner's instruction, and the examiner will ask the candidate to determine which is the appropriate control for demisting the rear view mirrors. And the examiner will say, are you happy with that control, David? And they'll say, yes. Okay, drive on when we're ready, please. Now that we're moving again, would you please demonstrate how you would demist the rear windows? So the question has got to be done on the move. But initially, if there's any confusion about the show me question, we will pull over to ensure that the candidate has an understanding where the control is.
Okay, thank you. I have another question, a little bit longer, from Gary Fossey. Evening, Gary. Gary's been on here before. Always there with a good question. Here's another one. Gary says, following on from my previous question, can John please provide an assurance that the DVSA will not close existing, permanent and temporary DTCs? Talking about taking testing to the customer. Because, not to close them, because they lack or are limited in respect of at least some of the features outlined in an ADI NJC newsletter article regarding a talk by Leslie Young. I believe in this article by Leslie Young in the ADI NJC, which you might not be privy to, I think she was saying that she would like people to turn right at major turnings and to do at least 3 miles on the dual carriageway. So, Gary's a little bit concerned there. If these these come in, and she'd hoped they'd come into the new driving test. If the test centre doesn't have them in the vicinity, will the driving test centre close down?
I can't give any assurances at all about anything to do with our estate. That's way above my pay grade. But I would just suggest that a test centre's got to be able to deliver meaningful routes. And if it isn't delivering meaningful routes, then that estate will be reviewed. But those decisions aren't taken lightly. We don't make a habit of closing test centres unless we've got no alternative, such as they won't renew the lease, or we've been evicted by the landlord, or whatever. But I can't give any assurances reference to the estate, I'm afraid.
Cheers, Jan. I appreciate that. And my last one until I let Martin go in again, from anonymous attendee. I don't know what the ADI number is for autonomous attendee and anonymous attendee, but the Mr. or Mrs. Anonymous. Evening, Gavin. It's not Gavin, because Gavin's written a question with his name on. The examiners in the PCS union had voted to go on strike. One of the reasons being they're not happy with the aspects of the new test. Will the test definitely start on the 4th of December?
Yes.
Thanks. And great question, by the way. A few people are aware of that, and it's like, ooh, is it or isn't it? And it's just one of those things, a bit of a black dog, isn't it? So, cheers, John. Great question.
Okay, I've got a question that is related to the new test, but it isn't technically. Why are the waiting lists getting longer? Are the DVSA pulling examiners out of test centres for retraining or upgrading their training to be ready for the 4th of December? Is that having an impact on waiting lists at the moment?
There's 2 reasons possible, Martin. When we introduce anything that's new, we talked about the fear of change. Not everybody views change with excitement like the majority of us do, but there are people who get a little bit apprehensive at the prospect of change, so they try and get in before that change takes place, and that's commonly known as a bow wave. So we get an increase in bookings leading up to the introduction of something that is new. That's part of the problem, but there is a training requirement for obvious reasons. I myself have been responsible for taking approximately 170 odd examiners away from the coalface for 2 days to upskill them in preparation for the new Part 2 and Part 3. So I'm sorry if that had an impact on any ADI qualifying examinations, but it will be the same for the Category B tests. But we're trying to manage that sensibly so that the impact on the service provision to the general public is minimised. But I'm not aware of any real particular hotspots at the moment.
Okay, that's brilliant. Thanks, John. Now, whilst I don't profess to be an expert in instructor training or driver training, I'm not in the same league as Graham Hooper. I wouldn't profess to be. What I specialise in is business development. And I've been espousing for a little while now that the normal dynamic of supply and demand is going to be slightly skewed because, and this happened before the theory test was introduced, you mentioned the bow wave. After the bow wave, then there's a little bit of a lull. Are you anticipating this happening as well after December the 4th? Because I happened for a little while.
When you think about it, Martin, DVSA's planning has been really clever, if I say so myself, because we're introducing the new test on the 4th of December. And why do you think that is? Why would we select a date like the 4th of December? Well, the logic would suggest that we're entering the winter period. You know, we don't want any white stuff, we don't want any ice, but we do lose tests because of bad weather. And we can make use of that time in-house if we do have to cancel through an act of God, i.e. snow, to do additional training with the staff. So, yeah, there will be a bit of a lull, but I'm hoping that the bottom line is that we're meeting targets, and our target at the moment is in a good place. 7.2 weeks overall is in place in the majority of areas in the UK. So it's really just a case of ensuring that that service provision is maintained, and let's keep our fingers crossed that we don't get any of the white stuff. I will make an apology now. We've got about 1,000 Part 3 tests that have had to be put on the back burner because of the fact that we haven't been able to introduce the Part 3. But we are working with those PDIs to ensure that they get exactly what they want and when they want it. So, you know, Jackie Tolan's taken a very pragmatic, proactive stance on all of that.
John, I've got a question from Pin Binning. You might know Pin, he's in your part of the world, mate. Well, Wolverhampton.
Right.
Kind of your part of the world, isn't it? Same county.
Yeah, not too far away.
Yeah, I think Pin might go down to South Staffs Association, actually. Anyway, Pin says, what would you advise PDIs who have been training for the new Part 3 test and have got their Part 3 test booked for mid-November?
They won't have to do anything, Pin. DVSA will be in touch with those PDIs to either offer them the existing Part 3, which is the 12 PST 10 exam paper version, which we're currently delivering, or there'll be a deferral until the new Part 3 is introduced. That is what will happen. Even though he's got his Part 3 booked for November, there's no guarantee that it will be the new Part 3. That's really important.
Brilliant. I've got to ask this question because this guy, Silvano Boza, has sent it through on every different type of medium possible. So I've got to ask the question.
Including my personal email address. How we got that, I don't know.
I know. I got the text message as well. Right. Will signs and the Sat-nav be used at the same time during independent driving?
No.
Thank you. Although I would just put my little bit in there. During the independent driving, if following the directions from a Sat-nav, you should be double checking them with the signs anyway, shouldn't you?
Yeah, you should, Martin. And as I said very early on, if the candidate is uncertain or confused, get them to ask the examiner the question.
Brilliant. Thank you. Silvano, your question has been answered.
John, I've got a potential banana skin. So if you can't answer it, we all understand. But if I don't ask the question, I'll get slaughtered for it. So I'm putting the pressure on you. You remember the question earlier on when we spoke about the higher paycheck, Leslie Young, and you couldn't quite answer that question?
Yeah.
Gary Fossey comes back and he says, is it possible if John could try and seek an insurance internally at the DVSA that you won't close existing permanent and temporary DTCs? I don't know whether you're allowed to. I don't know whether that's something that you would want to. Are you allowed to ask that question? Or maybe if you can't do it, could Gary, the ADI, is there a way where he could get that question posed to the relevant people within the DVSA?
No, in a word, which sounds a bit succinct, too succinct. I mean, again, going back to the subject of closing test centres, ministers are involved. It's a lengthy process. We don't just close test centres. There's a lot of rumours of certain test centres earmarked for closure, but they're rumours. I would rely on facts and wait to hear something directly from DVSA about a potential test centre closure and then react. But our plan is to improve customer service, not to reduce the customer choice. But that doesn't mean to say that test centres won't close at some time or another. Because when I was AOM for the West Midlands, I was faced with situations whereby the landlord wouldn't renew the lease, and we had no alternative but to either move or close the test centre. But we always worked hard to find an alternative, and in most cases we did. But the answer, I'm sorry to say, is no generally. Okay,
so in short, then it would be difficult for you to levy that question to the people. However, what you're trying to do, the DVSA are trying to do, is actually to create a choice. So therefore, it would go against the grain. But for any decisions taken like that, it's ministerial level. So perhaps if...
Oh, we've lost David again.
Okay. No, it's okay, Martin. What tends to happen, just to add to that, what tends to happen is when we announce a test centre closure, the local ADIs, and rightly so, get really annoyed and angry and approach their MP. Their MP then gets involved, and obviously the MP puts additional pressure on DVSA, and it's not a straightforward process. The last thing DVSA want to do, and I can say this without fear of contradiction, is close test centres.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you. David, have you got any more questions there?
Mate, I've got a million.
Go on, far away.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Can the audience tonight actually see the three of us, the good, the bad, and the ugly?
They can. They can see all of us. Not at the same time. When you're speaking, they only see you. We've all cottoned on that you've got an assistant that keeps filling your agenda.
Well, like I said, I've been talking a lot today, and Sue, my wife, bless her, just brought me in a pint of iced water, which is lovely.
Well, in terms of the questions, Martin, we've got plenty of questions in the chat box, so I'll let you go with those questions, and what I'll do is I'll look for the questions on Facebook. I've got a question here actually from all the way from Oxfordshire. So now I've said Oxfordshire, you'll know who it's by. Well, he will anyway. Saeed Sadat. Evening, Saeed. How you doing, mate? Hope to see you at the summit again this year, like you were last year. There you go. Plug for the Driving Instructor Business Summit. Can candidates make full use of modern technologies fitted in vehicles, such as reverse camera and automatic wipers?
Can I answer that? Because my car does have a reversing camera, and yes, you can use it as an aid to your observations, but not instead of your normal observations. I hope that clears that up. Any technology that is on the car is allowed to be used, with the exception, and John, please shoot me down if I'm wrong, automatic parallel parking, reverse assist, I think it's called. That's not allowed to be used, but all other gadgets, if you will, on the car, like automatic wipers, Well, they're automatic. It's what happens, and they're completely permissible. Is that right, John?
That's correct. You're spot on, sir.
Thank you very much. Right.
I think Martin's applying for a job at the DVSA here, John.
No, sorry.
Well, he won't need training.
I'm not sure they pay enough. That's another webinar. Right. Okay, looking at the chat box. Okay, which one's the good, which one's the bad, and which one's the ugly? And someone else has said, you're all bloody ugly. Lovely.
Who said that?
I can't, it's gone up the chat box. You know how quickly these questions run up, David. Okay, I can't see any more questions in the chat box. Anyone got any more questions?
Yeah, hold on. Hold on. I'm just. Yeah, I'm just trying to find. I've got some questions on here. I'm just trying to. There's lots of small bits and bobs. From Claire, this is on Facebook actually. If you've gone through this question already, John, forgive me. From Claire on Facebook land. When pulling over on the right, the signal always comes off as you straighten up, and pupils always forget to put it back on. I know they should, but would this fail them if they forgot to put it back on?
When you think, I'm not going to say yes or no, because it's all about assessment, it's all about risk, and it's all about best practice, but potentially they're sat just to the left of the centre of the road, and nobody really knows what they're doing unless they've got a signal on, if the signal is appropriate and necessary for notifying other road users. So I would suggest that you need to be encouraging your pupils to not only listen for the audible warning, but also to be checking the visible indicator that it's on, and conversely that it's cancelled after you've completed the manoeuvre. And I know you know that anyway, and I'm sorry if that sounds patronising, but it's really important that the pupils fully understand the risks involved, and that's why we're up in the game and raising the standards.
Thanks, John.
But a good question.
Lee Taylor, I'll say the question, I'll answer it as well. Lee Taylor says he's got his first standards check on Thursday. Any advice, please? Yes, Lee. If you go to either the ADI Vision Group, my YouTube channel, or the Driving Instructors business page, there was a video on there shot last week with John Farlam and Smart Driving. It's a 2-hour webinar. Get yourself on that, mate, and have a look-see and get yourself sorted. Right, Chris Benstead, evening again, Chris. I'm sure Chris hasn't got a social life. Chris says, it's like Chris Benstead and Graham Hooper, you know, God knows what they're up to. Anyway, Chris says, can John comment on the publication of pass rates? Why are the DVSA focusing on passing the test instead of driving standards for life? That's a political thing, isn't it? It's government.
Well, it is about a lifetime of safe driving, Chris. You're absolutely right. But you know, we are all judged on performance, and pass rates do serve a purpose. We analyse data not just for ADIs, but also for driving examiners. It's what we do, but it's also a measure of how well you're performing. So if you're taking responsibility and ownership of your own performance, so I'd like to think that every ADI analyses the 25s after a driving test to see if there's any particular traits, any particular patterns, any particular weaknesses that are habitually occurring, and similarly with the number of tests they've taken and the number of passes they're having. But it is about improving customer information as well, so that they too can make a more informed choice as to which driving instructor they go with. But who am I to say what will happen long term? But just watch this space. But I would also add to that, if I may, is if you've got any particular questions, Chris, relating to any of the proposals, I would suggest that you speak to one of the members of NAS, because DVSA also work very closely with NAS to ensure that the industry are content with the proposals that we are planning to put in place. We are working very collaboratively with the key stakeholders, and that's certainly that's certainly assisted in what we've been trying to do with regard to a lifetime of safe driving.
I tell you what, with the test, I've been looking at test results today, funnily enough, and using it for my marketing, for my websites, and got a new client on, and we're looking at how to position his business slightly differently. And I said, what are your test pass results? And he gave me some statistics, and they're pretty high. They're like 75% first-time pass rate for the year. I said, let's just have a look. What's it like in your local area? I'm not going to mention what the local area is, but the average was 43-point-something% last year, 2016. So I said, what we're going to do for your headline on your website is, my first-time pass rate is this. The local first-time pass rate is that. Where do you want to spend your money? So yeah, I love it. Anyway, good question coming in.
Yeah, I mean, just on that note, I raffled a few cages at a conference a couple of years ago, and I used an analogy where if you've got a grade A instructor that's taken 20 tests for tests and they've had 5 pass, and you've got a grade B instructor who's taken 20 tests for tests but they've had 15 pass, who would you rather see on a standards check, the grade B or the grade A? Well, the grade A would certainly be my choice, because he or she can obviously turn it on for the purpose of a standards check, but obviously isn't taking pride during their everyday working, and that would need to be addressed. So we'd call them for a standards check, a second standards check before time, and if again they achieve the grade A, then there is obviously a fit and proper issue. We're talking about integrity, people paying for service that they're not getting. So again, it's about the carrot and not the stick. We want all ADIs to take ownership and to be conscious of how they're performing, so that they can reflect on their own performance and improve. That's what we're asking for, please.
Martin, you're back, by the way. Martin's going, I've lost vision. Martin, if you're there, don't worry. I'm holding forts just about, and if I die, John's on his own. Helen Lang. Helen, hope to see you at the summit again. Helen says, if a test is cancelled due to the examiner strike and they've got to rebook after the 4th of December, will they take the new test?
Once the new test goes live, Helen, it'll be the new test. It's the same with the Part 3. When the Part 3 goes live, we will just be doing the new Part 3. We will not be we won't be delivering 2 different types of tests. So yes, there is a risk that could happen on the 4th of December. I'm certainly hoping it doesn't happen. I'll be certainly personally disappointed if it does. But we will ensure that we get those candidates who've been inconvenienced back for test as soon as is possible. In fact, the last time we had strike action, all managers, including myself, were also testing. I think that's a really good thing. It's always good to get back to the coalface. But it'll certainly be the new test.
Going back to pass rates, Jeff Took. Evening, Jeff. That's Drivebug all over there in Lowestoft. Jeff says it's illegal to publish pass rates. Jeff, I think that was you're probably talking about me here on the website, so what have you not, rather than the DVSA. John, Martin, have you heard anything about the legalities of publishing pass rates?
I've got to be honest, I'm completely ignorant as to the legalities of it. John, you're probably better placed than me to comment on that.
Well, at present, pass rates have been requested voluntarily on Find Your Nearest. We haven't gone down the mandatory road, because to go down the mandatory road, you need some form of legislation / regulation. We haven't done that, but I don't know if we will. But with regard to whether it's legal or illegal, I don't know.
Okay. Saeed has said, sorry, what's NAS? NAS. I think it's referring to NAS. Saeed is NASP. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jan, but it's the collection of associations, isn't it? 3 associations, ADIJC, the DIA, and MSA, and it's their podium there to liaise directly with the DVSA. Is that right?
Yeah, it's the National Association of Strategic Partners, and it's made up of the three key players within the industry that you've just mentioned, and they all have representatives on the group who work collaboratively with the likes of Jackie Turland and myself and Mark McGee on any new initiatives, stroke suggestions, such as the publishing of pass rates, etc. So they have the facility to represent their members. I believe they represent approximately 30,000 of the existing 39,000 or so currently on the register. So a very high percentage of ADIs they represent.
Talking of associations, we mentioned earlier about local associations. I think obviously everybody should be part of their local association, because we should all be one group, we should all be helping each other. There's always going to be certain people in local associations that are going to have a little bit more up-to-date knowledge than some others. But if they haven't, and I'm going to put you in the grinder now, John, are you or your colleagues still available to come out to local association meetings to do this live as opposed to a webinar?
Well, at present, I don't even want to guesstimate how many ADI meetings I'm doing. In fact, if you look at the latest MSA news link, you'll see I'm doing at least 5 AGMs up and down the country between now and mid-December. But in answer to your question, yes, I'm also doing a local ADI association whilst I'm on leave, ladies and gentlemen, as well, on the 4th of December, because I agreed to, and I don't let people down as well, you know. But there will be a dedicated ADI team in the new year, and that team will consist of ADI experts solely employed on ADI duties, who will be able to take the baton from the likes of myself and attend the local ADI association meetings to provide the necessary updates for their members.
Thanks for clearing that up, John. I wanted to ask the question, because I know you guys are doing it. I mean, you up there, down in my neck of the woods, Faisal's doing a lot. Yeah. The information's out there. You know, you're preaching to the choir at the moment. Everybody here is striving to be more professional, which is something I've always said we should strive to be professionals, because we want to be treated like professionals. And how does the DVSA view it? Are you viewing ADIs in general as professionals, or is this designed to make us more professional and accountable?
It's DVSA supporting the ADI industry, Martin. I mean, what we want to do, I mean, when you think back to, I don't know, when I came in the job, 84, it was a case of us and them. We didn't really go out of our way to support each other. Well, you know, we're very dependent as an agency on the skill of the ADI to ensure that the quality of pupil being presented for test is suitably prepared in line with the national standards, and that is so important. So, yeah, I think it's really important that we continue to have that relationship, if not improve upon it.
That's great to hear. I can only speak from personal experience, but I know that in my local test centre, if ever I've got a problem, they're very approachable. They're very professional. They're very helpful. And we do kind of work, it's a good group, it's a good team they've got there, and we all do tend to work together. You know, it's not us and them anymore.
Yeah, and I will say one other thing, if I may. I was calling at an ADI meeting not that long ago, and an ADI said to me, he said, "Hey, it's all right for you, John, coming to these ADI meetings on time and a half or double time or whatever it was," he said to me. And I said, yeah, and I said, "Can I just point something out to you?" And he said, "What's that?" I said, this is, you know, I don't get paid anything for doing this." And he couldn't believe it. He said, "You're here till 10 o'clock at night and you're telling me you're not on overtime or anything." No, this is my job. This is what I'm passionate about. This is why I support the ADI industry as a whole. And it's the same with all ADI examiners, the Faisal Iqbals of the world that Martin's just mentioned. When he attends the ADI Association meeting, he doesn't get overtime. We all sacrifice weekends for a good cause, and it is a good cause because you meet so many lovely people, so many people who are equally as passionate about road safety. Why wouldn't you want to do that if you're a DVSA ADI examiner? It's what it's about, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I can back you up on what you just said about Faisal. He comes to a lot of our meetings, and Tom Kwok, if you know Tom, he kind of runs the meetings in North London. And just as a matter of courtesy, Tom will offer Faisal a potted plant or a box of Ferrero Rocher. And in every occasion, Faisal will tell you, says, no, I'm here because I want to be here. I want to help you guys. We're all on the same team. So, yeah, keep up that good work, both of you. Thank you.
No, you're welcome. And as long as you don't offer me a P45, I don't mind.
Hey, look, there's a few questions coming in about pass rates. That's my fault. Look, tonight's about the L test, not really about pass rates. Look, if you are going to talk about pass rates on websites and stuff like that, make sure they are accurate and you can substantiate them, because you do need to comply to the to the ASA. Yeah. And the easiest thing that you can do, I'm sure you can get in touch with the DVSA and just get your record for 2016 or 2017 or whatever, if you can get your future record out for 2018, well done. But yeah, tonight's not really about pass rates. I know there's a few people talking about it, and it's one of those subjects, isn't it?
Well, let's add a little bit more to that then, David. When we talk about relationships and collaborative working, and we talk about pass rates, I'm going to make a plea to the ADIs now. You help us to ensure that the information is accurate. And what I mean by that is, don't selectively take your ADI badge out the window when you attend the test just because you're worried that somebody's going to fail. If you're taking or presenting somebody for test, you're presenting them because you're confident they've met the standard and that they're going to be successful. But we have ADIs who periodically take their ADI badge out the window, and then when it's a pass, when it's a success, they knock on the test centre door and say, I'm sorry, but you didn't record my ADI number on the DL25. Well, the reason why it wasn't recorded was because you took your certificate out the window. So please, please, please leave your certificates in. And if they're difficult to read, put your PRN number on a post-it note on the dashboard so it's easy to read for the examiner. That would help. Here endeth the lecture. Sorry.
Adrian, whoever's moving that bloody computer, stop it. Adrian 10, and even again Adrian, he said, would preventing private runners presenting for tests ever be a consideration for DVSA?
It's a good question, but again, it would need a change in regulation. There's a certain thing going on at the moment called Brexit. Is it Brexit? I think it's Brexit, something like that. So the likelihood of any change in regs at the moment is pretty slim, but who's to say in the future? I honestly don't know.
I tell you what, when a government official comes on, it's brilliant. All they need to do is, it gets a bit tricky, bring in Brexit. I used to love Yes Minister. Humphrey would have a ball with that.
I was just blame Brexit for everything.
Saeed has said, question for John. You just mentioned you don't like to guesstimate, but can you please tell us roughly how many more years can we hold on to our jobs as driving instructors before the self-drive cars take over?
That's a good, very, very good question. And again, I don't know, but there was, I did read an article only this week that in the next 20 years, there'll be no more diesel cars. Every car will be automatic or hybrid or totally electric. So there'll be no more manual cars. So that's going to be a huge change in what we do as a training industry. But I don't know. I haven't got a crystal ball.
John, you know what? I was born in '76. My dad had a Ford Capri, and I grew up during the '80s. And they said, oh yeah, we're going to get rid of 2-stroke and 4-star and the rest of it. It's all on lead.
Yeah.
You won't be able to use your old engines, and you know, you can go down to any weekend and see Capris and Cortinas running around and stuff like that. Technology will change, and you know, we can't stop that. We need to embrace it. But
Absolutely.
let's work in the here and now. And I can't see that all cars are going to be self-autonomous, because people like me, unless I'm disabled, I don't want it. That's my point. There you go.
Yeah, okay, well
done.
It is the way forward, I think, because of the legislation that is going to be coming in about not building any more internal combustion engines, diesels to start with. I think it's going to end up happening. That's my own personal opinion.
Hey, look, you know, we've been on this webinar for 2 hours now. So what we're going to do, if anyone's got any final questions on Facebook or in the chat box, if you're on the chat box on here, Gary Fossey's just said, what with Brexit, and he doesn't think it was until 2018 until Part 3 changes come in. So if you haven't had your question answered yet, stick it in the chat box after Gary Fossey's, and we'll read them there from there on, and we'll be as quick as we can. And then if you're on Facebook, good evening to a few people, by the way: Jeff Tuck, Paul Kerr, Martin McCormack, Anthony Tillman, James Palmer. Loads of people have joined in and participated tonight. Look, if you've got a question and it hasn't yet been answered yet, you might just need to copy and paste it. We will do our best. But this poor old DVSA chap here, John Sheridan, has been on this and pints of G&T already. Chris Benster says good night, or by the way, I'll see you at Sel Kent on November the 20th. Okay.
Cheers, Chris. Thanks for your input tonight.
Got a great question coming in. Oh God, all these questions are bloody coming in now, and I can't keep up with them. Can John please detail what constitutes a suitable test route for the new test, since it is beginning to appear that current ones and simply adding more in the way of faster and predominantly rural roads may not be enough, since we have loads of those in Wiltshire? Bloody hell, this is a hard question. I can't read this question. I'll try this again, okay? Question, bloody short. Can you see this one?
I can see this, yeah. They don't have many they haven't got the dual carriageway in Wiltshire, but they still have the facility to go on more rural roads. So it's not, obviously, I know that the agency want us to end up taking our pupils on more varied routes, and the change in the test is designed to deal with a more real-life scenario of having to drive at faster speeds for longer periods of time. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be mandatory to go on a national speed limit dual carriageway, does it, John?
No, there's two things here. Firstly, the new test is addressing some of the higher levels in the GDE matrix, which we don't currently test in the existing Category B test. Currently, we're focusing on the lower levels, whereas with the new test, we'll be dealing with behaviour and distraction. That's where the Sat-nav itself comes in. So that's first and foremost. The current test focuses an awful lot of the time poodling around on housing estates, looking for left reverses, turning the roads, angle starts, that sort of thing. Whereas the majority of accidents that happen between 17 and 25-year-olds happen on rural roads, faster flowing roads, higher risk roads. So we're taking the test more so into those particular areas, but we're also heavily reliant again on the professionalism and the skills of the ADIs to ensure that those pupils are suitably prepared, not to drive at higher speeds longer, Martin, but to be able to drive at the speeds appropriate for the road and traffic conditions, and to be able to behave appropriately for the changing prevailing traffic conditions. Really, really important. So the new test will have a positive impact on accident statistic and KSIs in general.
That's brilliant. And there's a very, very important point that Ellis Wood has made here. David, less of the whiskey, mate. less
There's no more left.
Well, there you go. Ellis, he won't be drinking anymore. It's all gone, mate.
I gratefully accept any donations to 12 and Pass Saint Benoit Cognac 16100. My address is found on the website. It performs to ASA standard. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. Claire Tunney writes a question.
I'm only drinking water. I'll miss it out somewhere.
Claire Tunney writes a question, and Claire, I think you write this question out of nervousness. Be a little bit stronger in yourself, Claire. She says, on the lesson with a candidate last night who's ready for test, and they were driving at 30 in a 30 zone, and 2 cars overtook. And the pupil said, you know, could I fail because those people overtook me? I was doing 30 in a 30, but they wanted to get past me. And she said that, no, you can't be penalised for others breaking the speed limit and taking that risk. She's right, isn't she?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Just to add a little bit more, I'm going to say yes, but how long did it take her to get up to 30? So, you know, was it appropriate to accelerate briskly up to the 30, or did she take half an hour to get up to the 30? But if she's driving if she's driving appropriately and making progress appropriately, and 2 Muppets behind decide to overtake, she cannot be held responsible for the actions of other road users.
When you say 2 Muppets, you're not talking about me and Nick Nicolau from last Monday's webinar.
Yeah.
No. Martin, I wouldn't dream of saying anything along those lines. You know that.
Martin McCormick says...
Sorry, David, can I just read this one out from Peter's Light? He said, would it be correct to assume that the 20-minute Sat-nav drive would be split into 2 10-minute drives to ensure the candidate does not end up too far from the test centre?
No.
Brilliant.
Martin McCormack says, most accidents happen late at night. Are we going to start having driving tests then?
No.
Quite like it, though.
I wouldn't mind it, to be honest. But no, because obviously there's a requirement for an eyesight test for a start, so that would create a bit of a problem.
And actually, this looks like it's a follow-on question. I'm just scrolling back on Facebook. Anthony Tillman, evening, Anthony. Anthony writes, this may have been asked already, but the new manoeuvre is legal during daylight, implying that the DVSA know it's illegal at night. Page 10 of the booklet. With the evenings closing in, some pupils may only be able to drive at night. I, for one, won't be breaking the law by trying this at night. Any comments? I'm not sure which manoeuvre you're referring to.
Putting up on the right, I would suggest, but the gentleman who ever asked the question asks a sensible question. So you make that decision based on the lighting conditions. It's your licence, your reputation. So you're going to pick somewhere that's safe, legal and convenient to pull over. We're only going to be testing it during the day. As I say, it's representative of real life driving. We don't intend to be testing at night. However, having said that, the Pass Plus module, driving in night conditions, is still important. So I would still recommend to any of the listeners that, you know, they sell their wares positively and encourage pupils to experience driving at night, but certainly not pulling over on the right at night. We've got no intention of doing anything of that nature.
Yeah, brilliant. I hope I'm not betraying any confidences here, but there was a situation several years ago when the agency were thinking about allowing instructors to sign off on candidates on their manoeuvres. But then it was decided that as a body, there were too many unprofessional instructors that would sign it off even if that particular candidate wasn't up to scratch with the manoeuvres. Now, am I right, first of all, in saying that, John, that it was considered, it was mooted?
It was considered, yes, but the reason why it didn't happen isn't quite correct. I mean, we've got issues. You've probably heard stories of Pass Plus certificates being sold over the bar, which devalued the whole Pass Plus scheme in isolated cases. But the problem with the greatest of respect to ADIs, I mean, when we talk about assessment now, ADIs are often harder than DVSA examiners because they're not totally aware of the standard. It takes a month at Cardington to train an examiner on the skills of assessment. Talking on a 2-hour webinar certainly isn't going to provide the necessary skills for an ADI to be able to assess. So there was concerns over the standard that ADIs may be assessing those manoeuvres too. So that was part of the reason why it never happens. Plus again, it would have needed a change in regulation.
Yeah.
So
okay,
it wasn't as straightforward as you originally thought.
Okay, thank you. David, you got any more questions there?
I was just deleting some.
Okay.
Excellent.
Let me just ask one then while you're doing that.
For Gary's, can you see Gary Foss's again? Is that the presentation at Chippenham? Can you do that one?
Can't see Gary's one. It must have disappeared off the top of the chat box. The next one I can see is from David Martin.
Right. Okay. Position Sat-nav.
Yeah.
Okay. Do that one then.
Okay. It says it's jumped again. No, it's gone. Sorry.
Okay. I'll do one I can see. At a presentation in Chippenham on the 13th of June 2017, the DVSA's John Carradine, didn't he do Kung Fu fighting? Stated that examiners will not use car parks with number plate recognition cameras. This makes sense to me, as I might have used it earlier or use it later within whatever the applicable time limitations will be. Will we have to tell examiners if we've knowingly been in such a car park beforehand? If so, is this not potentially open to abuse, or will examiners tell us if they've knowingly been in such a car park?
Well, the answer, I think, is exactly what I said earlier on. We've got a vast array of choice when it comes to car parks. A, we're not going to be using the same car parks. B, most test centres will have approximately 20 routes to choose from. There will be, the car park manoeuvre will only be done 1 in every 4 tests anyway. So it isn't going to be a problem. But you know, there go by the grace of God. You know, I could be shooting myself in the foot. There's always potentially going to be the odd incident, I suppose. We'll have to wait and see, but we don't anticipate any problems. But John Carradine works with me, for me, and he's right in what he says. Ideally, if there are car parks with ANPR on a particular route, but there are other car parks that haven't got ANPR, it would make excellent sense not to use the ones with ANPR. So that's what we will plan to do anyway. So he was given the correct information on that evening.
John, I've got a question about sat-navs. It's a couple I've seen before. I saw a picture on one of the groups earlier. The picture was inside of his Mini. So, you know, Mini's got a small windscreen, and, you know, you've got your rear view, and you've got the ADI's rear view, and then it's got its own pop-up sat-nav. And there's not much space to stick the sat, to put the DVSA sat-nav. You really are restricting what you can see through here. What happens in those sort of circumstances?
Okay, in the very unlikely event that the MATS is not able to be used because of what you've just described, then before the test begins, the examiner will ask the pupil to get out of the driving seats, and they will attach the sat-nav to the windscreen in an appropriate position for the pupil to see it, so that it's only the DVSA sat-nav that's going to be used. So we're not going to be using the sat-nav in the Mini, for example. So if we can't use the MATS, we will stick it to the windscreen in a position whereby the pupil can still make use of it.
Okay, so what you're going to do is you're just going to do the best you can.
It will happen. It will happen, David. I mean, you know, things do occur during the course of a test where you've got to think outside the box. But examiners have been trained for this eventuality. We're not expecting it to be a regular occurrence, but it will happen.
Okay, John, if I can ask you a question. With test centres that do have the facilities for bay parking, will the bay parking be still done in the test centres, or will they actively go and search out another car park?
The bay parking itself will either be done at the test centre at the beginning or the end, or done on road. So there's three choices there. So you've got the on-road reverse behind the vehicle, or the reverse into a bay, either at the beginning of the test or the end. We will not be doing the drive forward into a bay at a test centre. That will be done at car parks out on the routes.
Oh, great, thank you for clearing that up. David, you got any more questions there?
Yeah, David Martin, position of Sat-nav reference, another blind spot. Can pupils ask for the different position?
Yes.
Thank you. Andy Nolan, just looking for some clarification here. He says, I'm sorry, but did I hear you say we should or should not allow pupils to practice the new manoeuvre at night?
This is pulling up on the right, presumably. No. I mean, it's not best practice in poor daylight because of the potential of dazzling oncoming vehicles and having the lights the wrong way around, all of that. You know, we're not advocating that you do anything that is not safe and not legal. During the daylight hours, it's different. So there has to be a professional approach to this. What I did say about night driving was that we as a training body profession should still be providing pupils with the necessary skills to drive in adverse weather, in poor light conditions, at night, etc., as per the modules in Pass Plus. It's all part and parcel of a lifetime of safe driving. That's essentially what I was trying to put across.
Now, I have to ask this question because she's been trying to get it asked all night. It's from Sadaf Butt, and it says, hi, my Part 1 expires in March 2018. I've been given the new Part 3 training. If I'm unable to pass first time, will I be given extra time to be able to attempt this another 2 times?
No.
Right, sorry, Sadaf.
But what he can do, let's give him a bit of good news though, Martin, please.
Okay.
Before his 2 year expires, did you say March 18, I think you said?
Yeah, that's when the Part 1 expires.
Yeah, that's when his 2 years expires. So what he needs to do is, I mean, let's not think about additional attempts. Let's be successful first time. That's the first thing. But if he is unfortunately unsuccessful on the first attempt, make sure that he's booked his second attempt and paid for it before his 2 year expires. And then he can take the second attempt after the 2 year expiry date. So in theory, he could take his second attempt in May or June, even though his Part 1 expired in March, because it's already booked in the system. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense to me. So that's
Okay.
I hope that helps you. And if you need any clarification on that, please come back to me direct after the webinar. But, good luck. Hope you pass it first time.
Yeah, good luck, mate. Good luck. Sean Toon has said, actually, I'm not sure if Sean's pulling my leg or not, because with me not being in the car, it could be teasing me here. He says, can ADIs, PDIs advertise? Actually, PDIs shouldn't be really advertising, but can ADIs, PDIs advertise that the DVSA can use Sat-nav dash mounts? Is he pulling my leg?
Sat-nav dash mounts. We're using Sat-navs, the TomTom 52 start. That's what we're using. What's the dash mount?
I'm not sure. Maybe it's like the thing that you stick the Sat-nav onto.
Well, we've got. Oh, I see. Yeah, we've got the mats. Yeah, we are using a mat, and it is an incredible bit of kit, I hasten to add. I don't know who designed it or where it was invented, but this mat. Yeah, well, no, it's not like that, Martin. It's actually a rubber mat.
David.
Sorry, David. Apologies. This water's having an effect. It's a rubber mat that adheres very positively to the Sat-nav. The Sat-nav just does not move at all, nor does the juice pack that I mentioned earlier. Once that mat's been placed, it doesn't move.
Yeah, I've seen it demonstrated. Demonstrated at our local instructor association, and it's like the proverbial smelly stuff to a blanket.
It is, yeah, absolutely.
Adrian Tennant has written here, and this is great. You got a problem with Sat-nav in terms of you're not sure where to stick it. Bourneville Boulevard. Adrian, say that. Adrian Tennant said, construction and use regulations, section 30, paragraph 1, restricts the positioning of sat-navs. You're not sure? Construction and use regulations, section 30, paragraph 1. Thanks, Adrian.
This is why I love doing these webinars, because every time I come on, I always learn something.
Okay, I've got a license to drink. Jane Forrest asked a question not so long ago, and I kind of answered it, but she kind of come back at me. Thanks, Jane. Jane says there's a rumour. John, these rumours, I tell you. I think I might start making rumours because I get more people to come over to my website. There was a rumour about changing to the Garmin Sat-nav. Is that a possibility? And I replied back to her saying that the DVSA have bought over 2,000 TomToms. And she says, I'm aware of that, David, but I've heard there were problems with the updates.
Absolutely not. There is no way we are changing from the original purchase of 2,700 TomTom 52 starts. I don't know where these rumours come from, but I have heard that. I have heard that one myself, but no, it's not true. It's not happening. Don't believe them. And thanks for asking.
Yeah, that's one we actually touched on earlier, David.
Yeah, we did, yeah.
David Webb asks the question as well, so I guess it could be from the sales rep from Garmin whose brown envelope wasn't big enough to get the contract, John.
I don't know. To be honest, I have nothing to do with the procurement.
Safe answer, mate, whether it's right or wrong. Right, okay, so let's run through some very quick ones, and we're going to sign off now because it's really late. Christopher says, thanks for the webinar, guys. It's been really informative. Will the reverse bay parking manoeuvre still be conducted in the driving test car park?
Cover that one, yes, it will.
Yeah.
Gary Fossey said that John Sheridan was the most prominent in the horror genre. Thank you.
Was the most prominent in the what?
Horror genre, because I mentioned Kung Fu Fighting, didn't I? I think
I see, yeah, okay.
And one thing has just said, their test centre manager stuck the sat-nav on the test centre window to prove how well it stays put in a meeting last week. So it was on a horizontal window and it stayed put.
Wow, I mean, yeah, I was going to say something really nasty. Something to do with slime. Anyway, Ken says, thanks for an informative webinar. I'm off to bed. Lynn Atkinson says, good night, Ken. That's very polite of you. Sadaf Butt says, yes, thank you, I will do. Don Harris, evening, Don, you all right? Don says, can a candidate reverse from the bay there into an empty bay behind them and then drive out of the car park? After all, that's what I would do. So they're in a bay. Can they reverse into another bay to drive out the car park?
If that's the way they've been taught to do it, yeah. I mean, as long as it's with coordination of controls, in accuracy, but they will be asked to reverse out either to the left or the right. So they need to reverse to the left or the right. So is that what he's talking about?
What he's talking about, John, is reversing back in a straight line into the space behind him and then driving to the left.
Oh, you're talking about driving forward into a bay and reversing back into a... Is that what he's talking about?
Directly behind, yeah.
Well, the answer is no, because they need to reverse either to the left or the right out of a bay.
Right, thank you. Hope
does that make sense?
Makes sense, yeah. I think that answers the question.
No one's really mentioned this. Am I getting this wrong? But when does the motorway lessons come in?
The reason why we haven't mentioned it is because nobody knows, Martin.
That was David again, by the way.
Sorry, why did I do that?
I don't know, Julie, but you
can call me anything as long as it's not late for my dinner.
What's happening with motorway driving lessons and motorway driving tests? no one spoke about that tonight. What's the deal?
The deal is we don't know when it's going to be introduced, because again it needs a change in regs. So again, we can't predict when it's going to happen. We know it will happen, but we don't know when. And that's where we're at the moment. What we are working on is suitable guidance notes with NASP. I hasten to add again, because NASP have already produced some guidance notes. So we're looking at some support materials for ADIs for the possibility of a change in regs to allow learners to use motorways. But we don't know when, David, in a nutshell. Watch this space.
John,
well, I just want to say,
I can't see the chat box, but there's a lot of people saying, John, thank you very much for tonight. They appreciate you giving up your time. And a lot of people saying, so I'd just like to reiterate that and say thanks for this.
You're all very well. You're all very welcome. I don't get many Christmas cards as it is, so don't worry.
Yeah, your wife doesn't even send you one. Please, no more questions, because we're going to try and wrap this up, because it's 3 hours. It's crazy. Almost 3 hours. Helen Lang. It was the reason why I asked the question about the motorways, because what Helen Lang's question. She says, I'm sorry if it's already been answered. Can you clarify the sort of roads and areas that will be used for the new tests? It'll be the same, won't it?
No, it won't be the same, David, because we're not going to be using housing estates. We're going to be making better use, more effective use of rural roads, the higher risk roads. You remember I mentioned about dealing with the higher levels of the GDE matrix and targeting the higher risk areas. So we may have to nip into a housing estate to do an emergency stop on the odd occasion, because we do the emergency stop 1 in 3. But the bulk of the time we will be using the more rural type road, and that's really important.
Thank you. Can John confirm that a 70 mph dual carriageway available within time constraints for driving tests from a particular test centre is not a requirement?
It's not a requirement. We will make use of dual carriageways with 70-mile-an-hour speed limits, providing they're within reasonable access and time frames of the test slots, because the test itself lasts between 38 and 40 minutes. So we have got a time window that we've got to be conscious of, but within that time window we would make use of all different types of road, and that's really important.
Brilliant.
So,
if I can just answer, thank you, John, for that.
Yeah.
If I can ask a question quickly before it disappears from the chat box, from Pete Wilkinson. Says, we currently have little or no availability for Part 2 tests until early 2018. Will this change, and will dates become available once the Part 3 is sorted?
Good question, Pete, and thanks for asking. The answer categorically is yes. I mentioned earlier on that we're already in the process of putting together a dedicated ADI team, which will consist of 56 full-time examiners working solely on ADI qualifying examinations. So the availability of all types of qualifying ADI slots will improve dramatically in the early part of the new year.
Okay, I've just thought of something that's popped into my head. Will all the examiners that are dedicated to doing the ADI Part 3 training exams, will they be the same people that are going to be doing the standards checks?
You have to be standards check qualified to be able to conduct the new ADI Part 3.
And
so
vice versa?
Well, the existing Part 3, if they're only Part 3 qualified at present, they need to be upskilled to deliver the standards check to enable them to do the new Part 3. So there will be a few casualties until there are additional opportunities for retraining. But the dedicated workforce, Martin, will be qualified to deliver all aspects of ADI. That's really, really important. Yeah,
brilliant. Thank you, John. Yeah, okay. They need to be multi-skilled. So like you said, it's pointless trying to get someone to assess somebody if they're not trained to do it themselves?
Well, it just wouldn't. It wouldn't be permissible. It would not be. It would not be welcomed by the likes of NASP. Even with the new Part 3, because the new Part 3, as I say, in theory, can be delivered by somebody who's standards check qualified. But I took every ADI standards check qualified examiner back to Cardington for an upskilling briefing to ensure that they fully understood the administrative requirements of the new Part 3, and also to discuss some of the perceived risks with the new Part 3. So our examiners, I'm pleased to say, are CPD'd regularly, if that makes sense, because you've got to have faith and confidence in the examination process. Really, really important.
Oh, Gary Fossey, thanks John for that, by the way. Gary Fossey's got another question. You're busy tonight, Gary, but thanks for your input.
Last question, Martin, I'm knackered.
All right, I'll ask it. Are DVSA recruiting new examiners to replace the dedicated ADI ones? Waiting times are long enough.
We've recruited 360 new examiners this financial year, and the recruitment is ongoing. So in the next financial year, there'll be another recruitment campaign. But within DVSA, it has always been the same in my 32 years that we've always robbed Peter to pay Paul. And the recruitment is so important to backfill some of the more senior members who may be dropping off the edge, such as myself and the like. So the recruitment will be ongoing. So if you're interested, register with Civil Service Jobs and watch this space for opportunities.
Brilliant, thank you, John.
You say you recruited 360 and you're talking about backfilling. I mean, you might recruit 360, but 500 could leave. And that 500 could be 50 people, who knows? I mean, how many people are leaving? You know, when you recruit 360, is that to replace 360 or are you adding more?
No, it's a good question, David, and again, thanks for asking. We lose approximately 100 through natural wastage every year, through retirements and that sort of thing. And Gareth Llewellyn, our Chief Executive, is passionate about improving customer service. So we recruited more than we actually lost to improve the test slot availability. Because similarly, if we want LGV examiners, as I said before about robbing Peter to pay Paul, we take the LGV examiners from the existing workforce, which leaves a vacancy, if you like, for a new entrant. So that's the way it works. And it'll be. I don't know what the number is for the new year, but I can assure you that we will be maintaining the current staffing levels. That's so important.
Lovely, thank you, gentlemen. I'm going to bring this to a close. Before I do, I just want to say thank you for everybody that's attended. This has been the biggest platform the DVSA has ever had, and it's only the DVSA have only had this platform because of you who decided to register, join in, get involved on Facebook, and it's you that drives this industry forward, and by coming onto these webinars and asking these great questions. So thank you for that. We'll do this for the Driving Instructors Business, and the DVSA will be there, I'm told. But don't worry, I'm not going to let them do any speaking, so I don't want you to bore people. But they've got a trade stand, and so you can come along, say hello to them, and ask questions directly. The Driving Instructors Business Summit is there to support Speed of Sight, which is a fantastic charity that John Sheridan gets involved with personally. John, thanks very much. You've introduced Speed of Sight to a number of people, a number of associations, and because of your work, John, they've been able to raise more money. And so I've got to thank you tonight from John Galloway and Mike Newman from Speed of Sight for the work that you've done. I really appreciate it. Martin Lever's a huge supporter of Speed of Sight. So if you do come to the Driving Instructors Business Summit in January, Martin at Driving School Development said if you come, his company will issue a CPD certificate for the day. And you know what? Some CPD certificates get handed out by confetti, and it's not worth it. But the summit is going to be absolutely something else. So the 17 quid that you pay all goes to the charity, the trade stands that are paying, all the money goes to charity. And the reason how we can do that, oh God, was that feedback from somewhere? The reason why we can do that is because of AD Indy, Tina Jansen-Goodell at AD Indy. She's funded it. She's funded these webinars tonight. So thank you all there. John's just had to mute himself because we were getting some feedback. So Martin, I'm going to say thank you very much tonight. Would you like a little word?
I would like to have a little word, and it's on the subject of the CPD certificate. Somebody's just sent me a message I saw. How will they receive a CPD certificate for tonight? Last week's one is still being sorted out because I've been getting requests for them every which way you can imagine. But I'm pleased to tell you guys that everybody that registered for tonight's webinar will receive a CPD certificate from Driving School Development. It's going to be done. It's sorted out much more easily now. Thank you, David, for this. David's going to send me an email list of all the registrants so we can get the CPD certificates sent out as soon as possible to you guys.
I must stress, if you've registered, you will get a CPD certificate. If you've only watched this on Facebook, you won't. Now, please, I mean, Martin, I'm speaking on your behalf here, but I know how much work extra you had last week from people on Facebook saying, can I have a certificate, can I have a certificate, can I have a certificate. If you want a certificate, register and register before the event. Martin does this for free, just how John's turned up tonight. We're doing it for free. I know it only takes 2 minutes to print off a certificate, but if you've got 200 requests, all of a sudden, Martin's got a full day's work without getting paid for it. So please, if you want a CPD certificate from these webinars where Martin's involved, please do register. I'll give him the email list and they'll get sent off to you. Just a couple of things. Johnny Boland, hi Johnny and Marie, how you doing? Oh, Johnny and Maria. Johnny says 17 quid well spent for the summit. David Martin says I've signed up for £1. I'll see you there. Andrew Omacaro said useful seminar, thank you very much for the great information. Judith Hicks, evening Judith, thanks for this evening. John Sheridan, we know that you're a public servant and we know that you get a bit of a roasting from time to time, but if anybody's got any doubts about the DVSA, they really need to tune into one of these webinars, listen to you, hear the information, but also realise the time, the family time that you and your family are giving up so you can spend it with the ADIs out there. So John, from me and Martin, thanks very much. And John, if you want to take mute off and have the last word, it's yours, mate.
Thank you, David and Martin. It's been an absolute pleasure. The only thing I want to say to all your lovely people listening in is a big thank you for all the questions. There's no such thing as a silly question, apart from there is one, and that's the one you don't ask. So thank you for making it a productive evening. And I'd like to be the first to wish you all a happy Christmas. Happy Christmas and all the very best for the new year. And hopefully, as Martin, as David just said, and Martin, I'll hopefully see you at the ADI show, the ADI conference. What's the title of it, David?
I think you're looking for the Driving Instructors Business Summit in association with January the 28th.
There you go. That's the one. That's the one. I look forward to hopefully to seeing you all then on the 29th. But have a lovely Christmas. Look after each other, and look forward to seeing you and speaking to you sometime in the near future.
Cheers, guys. Take care, all. Okay, as we go, just to give you a little bit of an upshot of the next few weeks, Cool Mahay, one of the speakers for the event, he's going to be doing a webinar soon. We talk about leadership, core values and things like that. Puts loads of different things into your business that you would not ordinarily get through DIA meetings. And Poole used to be the temporary chief superintendent of Derbyshire Constabulary, and he's not boring. Another ex-public, I say ex, no, you're not ex-public servant, but colours. And also, I've heard back from Smart Driving that they really loved the webinar they did last week, and they want to speak to me about doing lots more webinars between now and Christmas on a wide range of things. So there's that news there for you. Martin Leather does his Mondays with Martin, which is live on the ADI Vision Group every Monday night, about 7:30, 8 o'clock-ish, that sort of time. So tune in. There's loads of information that we're giving out for you. We've got loads of different speakers lined up. Please, please, please come to the Driving Instructors Business Summit. The URL is on my Facebook page. We do want to push it as much as we can. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'd just like to wish you all a very, very good night. Thank you for everybody who's registered and everybody who's contributed in that little way. Please share, comment, and like if you see it on Facebook. Martin Leather, John Sheridan, it's good night from him.
Good night from me.
Cheers, John. Cheers, Martin. I'll speak to you guys soon. Good night.